Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Snow Goer Live. I'm your host, John Prusak, sitting here in my palatial daughter's bedroom, I guess my studio in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Appreciate you joining us. As usual, this is our new show here at Snow Goer. We're going to talk about racing, about riding, about the weather, about rumors. Not that there's any rumors out there right now about Arctic Cat or anything. We're going to just have a lot of fun talking snowmobiling. We have two special guests that are joining us here this week. We'll get to them in just a little bit. But first, we want to thank our sponsors for the show. Our sponsor, Snow Goer Live, is brought to you by Z1R, maker of a full line of snowmobile helmets, as well as helmets and other accessories for the motorcycle industry. Also sponsoring Snow Goer Live is Arctiva. Arctiva makes a complete line of snowmobile gear, from helmets, boots, bibs, gloves, you name it, they make it for the active snowmobiler. Both of those products are available from dealers, or you can go to arctiva.com and z1r.com to enjoy some other great things that they have to offer. So as I said, we're going to get to our guest in just a second here. Normally, I would open up the show and talk to you about the riding I did this week. Unfortunately, as some of you know, there's not a lot of snow here in the upper Midwest. So no rides for me this last week, but I still did a lot of fun things snowmobile related. Probably the most fun thing, last night I had about an hour-long conversation with soon-to-be Hall of Famer Gary Visser. He's going to be inducted into the Snowmobile Hall of Fame in St. Germain, Wisconsin in February, along with a star-studded cast, and I'm kind of helping those guys out with some bio stuff. And it was so fun reliving some great racing memories with Gary Visser. He had a lot of fun stories to tell. So again, we're going to get to some hot topics a little bit later, where we'll talk about what's going on this weekend in racing, in riding, in weather, in really pretty much everything. But we want to jump to our first guest right away, because this is a pretty busy guy, including some unique situations he's had to deal with even just today. Our guest is Todd Meyer from Cor Powersports. That is the big cross-country race circuit in the in all of snowmobiling. It sounds like we might be getting an echo out of your phone, Todd, but hopefully that doesn't last too long. So what's going on this weekend, Todd? Tell us about the Otter Tail 100.
Yep, I'm up in Otter Tail, Minnesota. Been here for a couple days now, working on getting things ready. Staged the equipment yesterday. A couple of the crew guys and I, we set the race course today, 9.6 mile Le Mans course on Otter Tail Lake. As you said, we've been working through some issues popping up. We're on a lake. Ice is always adjusting and moving, and the local group worked on the landing so we can get all the race trailers on the lake tomorrow. And ice shelf developed tonight as I was getting off the lake, so now they're scrambling to go fix that again tomorrow. But we have great ice. We got actually about a half inch of snow here today, which is just going to add to helping with the racing and that. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, people may in their minds imagine some of the issues that guys like you have to deal with, you know, on a race weekend, or for that matter, you and I have gotten in sidebar conversations about some of the permitting and some of the state laws and stuff like that. We don't have time for that full story today, maybe in the future, but is there ever a normal day when you're trying to put on a race?
There's pretty much always something that comes up every weekend. I mean, we're getting ready. I think this is our 14th season putting on races, and nothing has ever gone perfectly to plan. There's something, if it's equipment, personnel, sleds, whatever. So we have 20 people that work for us. We have 6 course marshal sleds, a couple trailers. It's a lot of moving things that go into place with it, and there's always something. If it's a generator or something, there's always something that's going to cause a little hiccup in the game, and we just work through it and adjust it and fix and go. So yeah, I got a great crew that works for us, so it helps make things easier.
Yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of people, you know, if something goes right or wrong, they blame the race director or sometimes whoever's doing tech. But it takes a team to put on an event like that when you're doing that much stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we have about 185 entries this weekend, about 102 actual individual racers. And so like tonight, my wife is actually at home in Wisconsin still doing race registrations. Well, I'm here with a couple of guys doing the work here. The rest of our crew will start showing up tomorrow and getting the finish line area set up, staging, tech, all the other little things. So our social media lady will show up and start doing her stuff. And
Yeah.
So it's our first race of the year. So it's having to bump the cobwebs off.
So the picture I just threw up on the screen is something you sent me through Facebook Messenger today when you were starting. I don't think you were complete yet in setting up the race course. So, I mean, obviously you must go with a plan, but to draw a race course like this and then have it happen on the track, that takes that takes some work and some practice, I would assume.
Oh, I had a plan, and the
Yeah, I'm
plan
sure.
changed as soon as I showed up. So,
Yeah.
being on the lake, we have to work around the ice houses and that. So, for like this event, we pulled permits with Minnesota DNR, Otter Tail County Sheriff, and a couple other organizations. And there's certain regulations we have to be so far from ice houses and that. But what I sent you this morning is when I took out one of our 2025 Polaris sleds and used the ride command system, GPS the course. And that was just me riding around the lake on the sled, taking a look, seeing what's there for rough ice, good ice, any heaves where ice houses are. And I think that one I had 7.5 miles kind of mocked up. And then the guys showed up to start marking the course. We dialed it in. And like I said, we were at 9.6. And then I took a Polaris General that we have from a dealer sponsor and plowed 2 paths on that as I GPS the final race course. And then we got plow trucks coming out tomorrow morning to actually plow the entire course. So it's when I do my permits, I have to submit a race course map to them. So like this one, I had the race course from 2023 that we ran. We weren't able to run it last year because of the low ice everywhere. So we weren't able to do this event last year. So I took the GPS of the race course 2 years ago, used that for permits, showed up, and there's about 30 ice houses where last race course was. So I had to pivot and shift on it. So so we just work on it.
Yeah, somehow it all works out. I'm not really sure how. The a lot of people, when they think of cross country racing, they may have two different concepts of what that is. Some of your races are like this one, or lake top cross country. You create this serpentine course on a lake top. Other ones are like the I-500, where you're the cross country I-500, where you're running ditches and fire lanes and stuff like that. Is that much variety a pain in the butt, or does it keep things interesting for you?
It's a whole different game. So the I-500 is actually easier for permitting than, say, like the Heartland 200, because the Heartland 200 we actually run in Paul Bunyan State Forest. So that one I work with DNR enforcement and then also DNR Parks and Trail, as well as Hubbard County Sheriff and a couple others. But like the I-500, I work with 5 different county sheriffs, MnDOT, state troopers, DNR enforcement, DNR Parks and Trail. So it's as we talked earlier, some of the package for the permit for the Heartland race is like 21 pages long.
Wow.
So, and we start that process typically about 6 months before the race. So people think the summer is the off season. The summer is when I'm working through all the legislation and figuring out what laws have changed and how we have to pivot and adjust with our permitting process. And we spent 14 months working on the permits this year for the Heartland 200 and the 500, the Goodrich Grigla 500. Excuse me, because certain wording changed in the laws a year and a half ago. And so as we worked on it last year, we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to get permits, but then we ended up not having winter, so we weren't able to do those races. So state senators and that are on board helping us with this, working through this legal process. And it's been a really good eye-opening for me. And the two groups, the Goodrich Grigla group and the Heartland group, both worked a lot of hours to make these events run. So, excuse me, it's been outside on the lake for a long time. So actually being in a place that's warm, it's changed. So I head out to the lake this morning at like 7 a.m. and I just got in at 6 o'clock at night. So yesterday I got here about 9 a.m. and got off the lake I got here at 8 a.m. Left Somerset, Wisconsin at 4 a.m. Got here, started working right away, and I got off the lake yesterday at like 7. So typical race weekend, I'll be on the lake at 5 a.m. and off at about 9 o'clock at night.
And that leads into something I was going to kind of ask. I mean, if folks like you that put on events like this, if you truly tracked your hours and what you spend on this stuff, it would probably be depressing. You'd probably realize you're making about 18 cents an hour. But so why did you and Andrea get into this, and how did you get into hosting races?
So originally I raced snowcross and cross country. I started in 2000 as a support rider for Polaris, transitioned through the years as a national race director for CNA Pro for 5 years. Had a privateer snowcross team for a couple years with Polaris and Arctic Cat. Got out of racing for a while. It just got burned out on it. 2008, 2009, my kids wanted to get into racing again. They were, I think, 7 and like 10. And so we did some snowcross, which I worked for a couple snowcross series doing marketing and stuff like that, ran their websites.
Sure.
Raced the I-500 in 2009 with Pat Mock and USCC. My business was a sponsor of the series, so I sponsored the team class. So Yamaha put together for me to race team class, and I was dealing with some things in our life at the time. Jesse Strigg, someone I've known from day one. I bought my first race sled from Jesse Strigg. He did morning prayer at that race, and it resonated with me. Went home, talked to the wife. I actually had knee surgery 2 days after the 500. I went into the 500 knowing I was having knee surgery, and we started talking about things, and we just felt like it was our drive to do something different than just racing. So we decided to launch Cor Powersports after the I-500 that year. So the summer of 2009, we started the planning at Cor Powersports, which it is actually a ministry-based organization. It started as a ministry outreach from our local church, because Cor Powersports is based on Corinthians. That's what the core in it stands for, is Corinthians. Worked for a race circuit, tried doing morning prayer. He said we didn't have time for that. And so Andrew and I just decided, well, if the organization is going to let us do it, let's just start our own race circuit. And so basically we just felt like it was what we were being called to do. And so we're now 14 years into the race series, but we launched Cor Powersports 15 years ago. It basically started as I went out, got all the sponsors and everything to financially start the series. Our church helped us with it just by allowing us to do all the bankroll through the church. And then after about 3 years, it got to the point where we had to go out on our own, and we created an LLC now. So Andrea and myself, we are the owners of Cor Powersports, and then it's the crew is all old racers, friends, people just want to be involved, and it's developed to where it is now. We acquired USXC 4 years ago, so now we are the premier pro national series. So it's just always kind of sit back and look at how we started 14 years ago and just amazed. But we had through like last winter, we just have to have faith that this is what we're being called to do. It'll happen, and it'll just get us where we need to be. And there's a lot of days where I try to figure out how to fix things, and I just got to realize that as long as I don't like meddle in it too much and just trust the process, we'll get there. And it's last winter was a lot of stress for us. We had to cancel, I think, 6 weekends. We got 2 races in. And figure out how to make it through the summer to get to this year. And then as you shared earlier, it's 3 weeks ago, we found out that even our part of support from Arctic Cat wasn't going to happen this year. So all of us race organizations and that our support was cut as well as racing. And so it's hitting everybody really hard. And the guys that are out there racing really need your support from the fans and that, because like Zach Herfindahl, who is our multi-time pro champion, he is footing the bill for a lot of his own racing to still be out there representing the brand and just trying to do what he can. So,
well, we've got some people, specifically Dave S., who I think I might know who that is, stirring up some trouble on our chat here, insisting that today Arctic Cat was sold to CF Moto. So I don't know if I buy the story or not. I know that's a very popular rumor out there right now, but
I've heard the rumor a lot too.
What's that?
I've heard that rumor a lot. It's I
What of
haven't talked
about
to Mike
10?
Coletti for about 3 weeks, but it's all I can say is I know a lot of people that work there as engineers and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and my heart goes out to them because yes, it's great we're racing, they support our racing, but it's the people's lives that are being affected, the people that are
exactly.
being laid off and all that. I mean, every time they came out with another announcement, first thing I did is I called Mike Coletti. I'm like, do you still have a job?
Right.
Because I'm like,
Yeah.
he's been there forever. He's been through it thick and thin, and he still loves racing. He loves Arctic Cat, and he's doing all he can. And we wouldn't have the cross country racing for the Arctic Cat riders from the juniors to the pros without people like Mike there that are so passionate about it. And it's
Yeah.
I raced for Arctic Cat for 1 year. I didn't personally race, but I own the team, so I do have some history with Arctic Cat, and it's
Mhm.
they're one of our main sponsors, or were our main sponsors up until 2 weeks ago. But we love having them on board. Polaris is
Yeah.
one of our big sponsors. Skidoo is one of our sponsors. I know a lot of people in the industry. I've been working in the industry for over 25 years, so it's whenever I hear the layoffs and stuff like that, it's right away. I just think about the people's lives that are being affected. It really sucks that we're losing the support for racing, but it's racing at the end of the day is just racing. These people
Yeah.
this is their livelihood. This is how they're making a living. And that's the part that I really pray and hope for them, that things turn around. And
Yeah.
all the conversations, I'm like, the best thing can happen right now is somebody buys Arctic Cat.
Yeah.
So,
I'm some people call me crazy, but I'm very optimistic that something good's going to come out of this. So we'll just keep those positive vibes being sent that way. And you know what you mentioned too, there's so many times that a lot of people will think of the race director or an engineer that's popular that they know of or something. But even the assembly line workers, there's a lot of people who've dedicated their entire lives to being the person that puts on the seats or whatever assembles the clutches or whatever it is. And those people too, it's pretty heartbreaking that right before the holidays they found out that at the very least we got a 6-month pause here. But
it's that whole community. I've been at the Arctic Cat Race School before. I've raced the I-500, so I've been involved with a lot of stuff up in Thief there. And it's just, it's amazing to see how much the town has grown over the past 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's just see this happening to basically this hometown brand and that. I mean, we've been through it before. We've seen the good years. We've seen the bad years. We've been in the industry long enough that we know there's going to be bad years. And what I joked last year after that winter, I'm like, what's the odds we're going to have 2 bad years in a row? So
Yeah.
at least this year we have cold weather, so we have ice, so we can at least get our races in on ice. But Park Rapids is our next race. It's supposed to be in Paul Bunyan, and they have no snow on the ground right now. We do have the option to go to a lake race if we need to. So that decision will be made here probably in the next 3 or 4 days. Just
Okay.
2 weeks prior is where we have to notify the permitting people. It's like Heartland 200. There's 160 some landowners that we have permission to run their property. They're on our insurance. So it's the local group. He has a 3-ring folder. It's 3 inches thick with all these organizations. He has to get approval to run the event. So
Yeah.
we have to let them know a couple weeks ahead of time what we're doing. The 500 met on Tuesday, and everything's ready to go for the 500, but there's really no snow in the area. So we need snow. They're not dirt mobiles, they're snowmobiles.
Yeah, but you're right. At least this year everything's froze. Last year we didn't even freeze up the swamps, and some of the lakes were in terrible shape. That this year we just got to break this little winter drought we have going because we have the conditions that will hold the snow. Now we just need the snow.
We have a course marshal sled from last year that we got to use, and it's an XCR that one of the sweepers run. And I don't let them use it at the lake race, and it's sitting in the trailer right now with 0.3 of a mile on it still, and it's from last year. So we just want to ride. We love snowmobiling. I started when I was like 3 years old. So I was born and raised snowmobile, and I was diehard Yamaha. That's what my parents rode. So when I got to race for Yamaha in 2009, it was like a dream come true because it's the brand I love. And now to see where they are now, it's heartbreaking. But when they shut down Pleasant Prairie, and that is kind of where the writing was on the wall with that one. And Rob Powers and Greg Meyer and Eric Jovison, all those guys at Yamaha were good friends of mine. And again, just like we are now, the engineers and these guys are all losing their jobs. I talked to Patrick Trapp at Heydays this year because he's still at Yamaha, and he's like, I don't know what's going to happen here in a couple months. So it's the industry we're in. When things are good, we all enjoy it. When things are bad, it can get really bad. So
Yeah. Well, let's switch back to the positive for a second. I don't want to start crying here together or something. And by the way, the guest that we're going to bring on here in just a little bit, folks, is from upstate New York, where some parts of upstate New York are having a fabulous winter. It's been dumping snow, lake effect snows in some areas. So we're going to get to Ross Benson from Hygear Performance in just a few minutes here. Our guest right now, Todd Meyer, is from the Cor Powersports race circuit that runs the big cross country races here in the U.S. Todd, let's give a plug to the rest of your season. Weather permitting, of course. What are we looking at for the rest of this year?
So this weekend is Otter Tail, Minnesota. We have our pro racer Dan Revering raised another $5,000 on top of our additional purse, so it's like 10 grand to win on Sunday.
Nice.
We go from here to Park Rapids, Minnesota in 2 weeks. If we don't have the snow, we go from running a 108-mile course in Paul Bunyan State Forest to I think it's like 11-mile course on Fishhook Lake. So we have a plan for that one. February 8th and 9th, I think is the date, is the Goodrich Grigla I-500. And then last weekend of February, we go to Walker, Minnesota for the Leech Lake 200. Mm-hmm. And then the first week of March, we're in Natiwash, Minnesota for the Snowdeo 200, which I believe this is year 54 for that event. Wow. So we've been part of that one for quite a while. And club loves us. We love the club. So, and then we finish off the 14th, 15th, 16th of March at Mount Zion Ski Resort in Ironwood, Michigan. That is for an event that we call the Trilogy Cup. And it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday racing. Each day is a separate day. So it's actually 3 rounds of racing, points, purse, everything. So it's cram what we can into there. And they make snow and they try to do all they can, which we couldn't even run that one last year. So yeah, it's Ironwood Chambers involved with it. They love having us there. We fill all the hotels. And yeah, it's a fun event. It's a great way to end our season.
So do you ever still get a chance to trail ride? Do you ever have a weekend off where you can just be a snowmobiler?
I actually just sold my personal sled 2 weeks ago because it was a 2023 XCR 850 that had 600 miles on it. Okay. So, and that 600 miles, 100 of it was I pre-rode the Heartland course and I GPSed it for our trackers. And then the other part is I rode the I-500 course that year, both loops in one day. So 400 miles of that were me riding at the races. So, okay. I think my wife's sled, she's got a VR1 650 that has 200 miles on it. So it's a 2022. So we don't get to ride as much as we want. Everyone thinks, oh, it's got to be great. You work in the snowmobile industry. Yeah. We're working. We don't get to ride. We don't get to play around as much. And it's, we try to schedule rides, but if we can't ride from our house, we really don't get much in because I'm on the road 4 or 5 days a week. Like I got here yesterday and I won't be home till probably Sunday night at midnight. Sure. And then if we're doing the woods race, I'm in Park Rapids next week working on prep for the race. And then the race is the following week. The I-500, I show up 6 days before the race and I leave 2 days after. So unless we have snow into April, I probably won't get to ride much.
Okay.
So, but I do have a new sled from Polaris to try riding this year. So it's sitting in the garage waiting for me to ride it. So I got a XCR 9R that I'm dying to try out as an ex-racer. As soon as I said mom motor, I'm like, I want to try that sled.
Yep. We have one of those ourselves, and that's one of the sleds that we still haven't even broke in yet this year. It's going to get some miles next week, though, I promise. By the way,
I just picked it up Saturday, so it's fresh, sitting in the garage waiting. So,
by the way, Oval racing legend Mark Resch has commented in the commenting section here. He says, "Will Todd be coming to the Legend Laps? And will he want to ride my replica F3 650 with a smiley face?" So, it sounds like you got a ride if you come over for a Hall of Fame weekend.
Yeah, we were planning to go because actually someone that I know very well is getting inducted this year, and I want to be there for it. Scott Davis, the dog legend. His son, Corey Davis, actually raced on my trailer for snowcross at Lake Geneva a couple times, so I know the family well. Andrew and I want to go, but it depends on the 500, and because of the business impact from last year, I've already told the Hall of Fame group that I'm probably not going to be able to make it this year.
Okay.
But I do have the number 1 bib from the last Winnipeg to Bemidji race that as I was cleaning out all the USXC stuff, I found the #1 bib that nobody wore. So I told James I'm going to send it over the Hall of Fame, which we've donated a handful of equipment that we found as we're cleaning out all the stuff that from the acquisition that we don't need. And some of it we're like, we don't feel like we should sell it to some collector. We'd rather have it go to the Hall of Fame. So we've donated stuff to the Hall of Fame for displays.
Sure.
So.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to let you go, my friend. I got Mr. Ross Benson waiting to do some chatting as well. You have a great weekend this weekend. We always put on first class events, and we know this will be first class as well, and wishing for nothing but a safe event for all your racers as well.
Yeah. Thank you for the time. And yeah, definitely. It's we appreciate it. And yeah, I got work to do yet tonight. So
yeah, I'm sure you do. All right. Take care, Todd.
You take care.
See ya.
Yep.
So again, that was Todd Myers from the Cor Powersports circuit. He does a great job. Him and his team, I should say, it's truly a team effort with the cross country races that they put on. They picked up the mantle after Brian Nelson decided he wanted to move on, and they're doing a great job with it. So kudos to them. And if you've never been to one of those cross country races, they really are entertaining. And the lake top ones, you can at least see the whole course. The true cross country ones, then you usually stand beside a ditch and have the sleds go by you, and then you see them for a second, and then you try to see them somewhere else. So again, you're watching Snow Goer Live. We are sponsored by Z1R helmets. Z1R makes the complete line of snowmobile helmets and a complete line of motorcycle helmets and accessories. So check them out at z1r.com. We're also sponsored by Arctiva. They make jackets, bibs, boots, gloves. They make great head socks, base wear, a whole bunch of different things. And they're available at arctiva.com. So we thank them both. They're also available at pretty much any dealer that is a Parts Unlimited affiliated dealer. So we're going to move on to our second guest, who's living in a place where there is snow, gosh darn it. Ross Benson, I'll pull him up as I'm introducing him here. Ross Benson is the owner and founder of Hygear Suspension out in the Finger Lakes area of New York. And he is a suspension guru that we've relied on for a lot of advice over the years. Welcome, Ross.
Hey, how you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty well. So I saw some reports earlier this week of different little spots in New York that were getting like 70 inches of lake effect snow and stuff. Is it how wide is the area, and is the base kind of excited out there right now?
I definitely think that the market's excited. We're excited. I do get a chance here and there to talk to the customers a bit. I try to find out what's going on. Are people riding? If they're up riding, is it a zoo? Is a lot of hot activity? And the biggest thing is there's snow in the lake effect region, but it's also widespread. So it is good. We're excited about it. Get some guys out there riding. It's been a while.
Yeah. You guys out east are kind of due. A lot of people I talk to here, it's like, oh, we never get snow anymore. Well, 2 years ago we had record snowfall here, but everyone kind of remembers the most recent thing. But you guys out east in particular were due, so that's great to see that you're getting snow. And I know some parts of upper lower Michigan got all sorts of snow around Traverse City and Gaylord and things like that. So at least it's snowing somewhere, but quit hogging it. Kind of reverse some of those storms and back them up over us if you get a chance.
Yeah, we feel the same. We're always the last ones to get it here in the east, but it's cyclical. It's sometimes you get a lot, sometimes you get a little, and man, when there's snow, you got to ride. So it's key.
So I asked Todd this question, sort of, and then I'll ask you too. I mean, now that you work in the snowmobile industry, do you ever get to ride for fun anymore, or is pretty much every time you're riding, you're testing something, you're developing something?
In the east here, yeah, it's all work for us. So we're, if there's snow, we're pretty much working in it with the vehicles and stuff like that. I would say if there's local snow, just like Todd mentioned, I mean, he hit the nail on the head. If there's local snow, man, we're going to do a loop. We're going to go out and ride and do a loop and enjoy. And but it's just so dicey anymore whether or not you can't count on it. I remember back in the day, like you could ride on Wednesday and count on a weekend ride and stuff like that. But anymore you can't. And now we're pounding the sleds through mud holes and just smeared tracks of goo, and we got to go pick rocks just to make sure we're not damage anything. But yeah, it's a little different approach.
Yeah, yeah, that's suspension testing. That's what I say whenever we're out on some terrible trails where we're just getting the snot kicked out of us. Well, we're suspension testing today. You got to justify whatever condition you can ride in.
Yeah, they have good fairings on them, right? You don't get
Yeah.
totally covered in mud, so it's not too bad, not like an
Yeah,
ATV or a bike.
yeah. We can make them all terrain vehicles if we want to. Let's go.
Yeah, just enough
Yeah,
to kick the coolers, keep the coolers cool, and you're good to go for a few laps. So.
exactly. So let's back up and talk about your background. How did you get involved in motorsports to start out with, and how does that lead to high gear suspension?
I'm like so many others. I just have more ambition than brains, and a throttle was so much more fun than pedaling. So, I just started riding and raced for a long time on in cross country woods, and the snowmobile thing came by accident. Like so many people talk about, they grew up as a kid riding snowmobiles as I did, and
Yeah.
after racing went away, I went out west for a while and I lived in the mountains. And next thing you know, I'm working and building sleds, and that was in the days of the RMKs, like a 136 with a 1 3/4 paddle, and I got a 600.
Pretty
And
extreme machine there.
oh yeah, it was killer. So the so I ended up back in the East, and I was a terrible employee too. That was the other thing that knocked this thing off. It's horrible at it. And so yeah, I started this thing and trying to sell spark plugs and change oil, and it wasn't any good. And the suspension thing and hydraulics always worked for me, and we got into it. And it's mostly driven. It started because of the snowmobile industry. There was a need in our area. The sled guys, I always tell the story now when they say, well, what about the side-by-side industry? And I'm like, well, if you look at a snowmobile, they sold that sled to the consumer. It says, hey, this comes with rebuildable shocks. So it doesn't matter what level of consumer you are. You were like, well, we need to rebuild the shocks then, right? So was like, okay. And it all took off, and snowmobile guys all like, I got the good rebuildable shocks. And the dealers saying the same thing. But you get into side-by-side market and things like that, and they're like, wow, look at the size of that shock. But they don't say you got to rebuild it. So it's a little different market. But the sled market was good for us for sure. And it just led to so many more things and so many great people that we've met and experiences and things that we've created. And it's been good.
Very good. I'm not saying this just because you happen to be on the show right now, but you've gained quite a reputation for the quality of the work you do, and the fact that you truly understand kind of what the riders want after asking them a few questions. I mean, not anybody, but a lot of people can rebuild shocks, but are they necessarily going to make them for the way that the customer rides? And that's something you guys take into account, correct?
I mean, we try.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so hard, man. It really is. We don't have a magic wand. We don't have pixie dust. We don't have any of that. But we do spend a lot of time learning the vehicles, learning the applications, learning the shocks. We bring them in. We dissect everything. We figure out motion ratios. We invest a lot of money in high-end equipment, fancy dynos, all this stuff to do the best we can. And that's the best approach we've learned how to do, because we're no better than anybody else in some sense. There's guys out there that are wonderful, wonderful tuners and really have things dialed in. But when you put a business aspect to it and a commercial side to it, and then still try to do a good job to appease the public, then the consumer, everything changes. And that's the hard part.
I'm sure. So from Joe consumer perspective, you talked about, snowmobilers. A lot of us know that, getting the shocks rebuilt is an important thing. Is when somebody sends you their shocks, what additional information are you seeking from them as far as, I don't know, the way they ride or how they want these things valved or whatever?
I guess it boils down to, are they sending in for service and maintenance, right? That's the vast majority. Or like, we've done a ton of work in like Polaris XC, building linkages and different things, because we've done so much testing and so much work. We were held back, and it took other products to get that, kind of a solution to help people. And, it's hard. So we have a shipping form. They can go on, and it really gives them the gist of our process, gets them going in the door. The toughest part with shocks in some, concealed unit is the surprises inside, and how do you deal with that? And then what level of service do you provide? Do you go full factory spec or just dump the oil out and a little freshie and a seal and it goes, or, it's so hard to determine. So, when we do so many of them for the low cost of labor, you really got to be careful. You don't want to come back. You really don't want the customer to go through that. And it's a balancing act,
Yep, absolutely. So again, our guest here on Snow Goer Live is Ross Benson. He's from Hygear Performance, or Hygear Suspension, sorry, is the official name of the company out in upstate New York, although he serves customers nationwide. One reason I want to have you on is over the years, you were always great at our Big East Powersports show, where you'd come up on our stage and you'd share some suspension tuning advice. It's a difficult thing to share because it can be so individualized. Let's see. There's a picture of you and me up on stage.
Dude,
of course,
John, was that the time when we were up there and there was just you and me, and the dude asked about the free ride?
I think
what was that, Skidoo? That was so funny. But you were awesome and made it come to life.
There you go. So for relative Joe snowmobiler who isn't used to tuning his or her suspension, one thing that you always taught us in the various seminars and even some of the articles you wrote for us back in the day was the importance of just starting by setting your ride height with your shocks. Talk about that as far as just a starting point before you do anything else. What should you do if you're trying to get your suspension dialed in right?
It probably realistically is the biggest thing. It's so confused. It's so misunderstood, but we see people all the time. They call us up. Well, I got the fat boy springs in. It's like, well, I don't know what that means. I mean, and they're like, I'm a big guy. Well, how much you weigh? I'm 230. It's like, you're not a big guy. Come on,
Not in modern America.
Yeah, exactly. So the ride height is so important. We see people, they're bottoming out. They're buying stiff torsion springs when they really need a revalve. They're not measuring. We do have a simple on our instruction sheet. You go to the homepage of our website, scroll down, you'll say find my instructions. There's a link on there that says how to measure your rear ride height. Springs hold you up. That's period, right? And then shocks dampen the ride. Well, what's that mean? Well, do you want to go fast or slow? You want to ride little bumps or big bumps? And so that's kind of the guessing game, right? And so, but yeah, you can nail the springs down, and if you want to drop your front end down a little bit for a little flatter cornering or something, you can do some fancy springs or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely the ride height's probably the biggest misunderstood thing.
Are there any other common mistakes you've seen over the years where somebody comes in and says this thing won't handle, and you're like, okay, look, first of all, you can't have your clickers turned all the way up or anything like that? Is there any kind of recurring themes?
My favorite is the limit strap pulled in, right? How about the guy pulled it out of the trailer, right? And he's got it, he gets a sled, he's got it on dolly wheels so it doesn't scratch his floor. And then he goes to the back of the sled and the sled's just like whoopity boopity boop, there's no resistance at all. So he's like, man, my shock's blown. All right. So he takes the shocks in, sends it to us, probably needed it anyhow, right? So we rebuild the shocks. We send it back to the guy. He puts it back into the sled, still on dolly wheels, goes boopity boop. There's nothing there. He's like, well, you just rebuild my shock, didn't do nothing. I'm like, all right, well, I guess. Let's go through a few setup questions here first. So the limit strap pulled in every time is like totally disbalances a sled and messes things up, but they're trying to steer, right? So what do? Pull the limit strap in, put in some big skis, big runners, whatever approach it how you want to.
So what overall at Hygear, what percentage of your business right now is in the snowmobile world versus in other power sports? Roughly.
It's really hard to say, but our markets are power sports vehicles, snowmobiles, side by side, motorcycle, ATV. We do dirt street. We don't do that nationally, really. We really focus on a local area there. But side by side and snow is across the country. We ship parts worldwide. And snowmobile, we've been doing it. And I started in 2002. And here we are today, and still cranking parts out. Manufacture a lot of parts. Service a lot of items in the shock industry for rebuilding, like let's say hard chrome HPG shaft for a KYB shock. Mm-hmm. We make them. We're the only
Okay.
ones. We make them, right?
Yeah.
So, that's become like a big part is the parts distribution, stuff like that. But yeah, it keeps going, man.
Okay. There's a bunch of trophies behind you. I'm assuming you bought those at a garage sale somewhere, or maybe a secondhand store. Or did you maybe earn a
That's
couple
what
of
I
those?
thought was cool. That
Yeah.
was the cool days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something,
Yeah.
man. Look at me go.
Yeah. So, in all seriousness, what do mainly on 2 wheels that you were doing your racing, or a lot on 4, or a lot on sleds?
Man, I wanted to be the fastest kid on a dirt bike through the woods, and that's
Yeah.
all I wanted to be. And I tried hard. I worked hard at it. Did well, and I got hurt pretty good, and that kind of changed the outlook on life. But
Okay.
I went down to Mexico. I rode Baja 1000 last spring. We did 1,350 miles on a dirt bike. I rode a gas 300. And with a couple buddies of mine, and, man, we still can go ride, and that's all. That's what matters anymore. So
Yep.
fitness, and we're getting old, and just be able to still ride that snowmobile. We go out west to ride, and you feel like heroes in the woods around here. You get a good snow and go rip the woods. It's just there's nothing better. It's fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, just speaking of riding and riding in your area, let's pretend your cousin Billy Bob from Iowa comes out and wants to see the best of snowmobiling in your general area. Where are you going to take him? What are a couple of the sites you're going to show him on sled?
Man, I'll tell you what, and anyone USA will say this: if it snows in my backyard, I'm going to take them for a trip, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves the snowmobile and the trails right around home. You can't get better trails than that.
Yeah.
And that's where I would take them.
Yeah.
To go up to the big snow areas and stuff. I mean, I'm not good at it. I have customers that know that stuff so good. It's so impressive. The amount of miles and the effort and the time that they put into that, it's always impresses me,
Yeah.
But and it's good riding, right? But
Mhm.
man, there's nothing better when it's in your backyard.
Yeah. I'm living close to a big city here where I live. I've always been so jealous of the people that can just throw open their garage door and ride right out of their
Oh yeah.
garage, and now where we keep our sleds a little bit west of the Twin Cities, before last season, we had a couple of winters in a row where we did that. And yeah, sure is nice not hooking up a trailer every single time you want to go somewhere and take a spin.
Absolutely. I mean, you can just do a quick rip down to get, something with your lady to eat. You just
Yeah.
go to dinner quick, or go to the boys at the bar, and you got to drive 100 miles home after you had 10 cocktails.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Well,
That
not
doesn't
everybody
happen.
does that. No. You forgot we were recorded live.
Oh, there was a citation skidoo we were riding too, by the way.
A citation. So what is the best part about owning a performance shop in the snowmobile or power sports industry, and what's the most challenging part?
All of it.
Yeah.
All
At the
of
same
it.
time.
And I'll tell you, I don't know. I've had a lot of good guys work for me over the years. We have, good guys working for me now. Good customers. Just a lot of the customer relationships are really good. It's nothing. It's a challenge to try to develop something, make something, get something going. It's tough. And getting it going though, and seeing success behind it, and seeing people enjoy it or whatever, see it go off your shelf. That's good too. But overall, it's you gotta work.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of us who work in the industry, everyone bitches about they don't get to ride as much or whatever, but still we're in an industry where we got passionate customers, and where we're selling on one level or another, we're selling fun. And it's a heck of a lot better than selling staplers or equipment. So it's we may work hard, we may not be millionaires, but we have a lot of fun doing what we do.
Very, very true. It's like, I guess I could have had a choice fixing a vehicle that someone was driving someplace they didn't want to go every morning, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're in the business of fixing recreational toys, so
Yep.
it's a different challenge. We're in a wants industry, not a needs industry, and we have to, the good times and the bad times, we have to accept it.
Yeah. And that certainly has its challenges, but yeah, it's, you could have been fixing hearse, who wants to ride in one of those?
yeah, 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 I could
Yeah.
have.
All right. So
Rather fix it than ride in it.
yeah, exactly. So, any plans for this weekend? Any plans to go riding anytime soon?
We're trying. It's tough for us. We're so busy right now that pretty much
Yeah.
all hands on deck. I actually have a couple of guys that are working full weekends on Sunday, everything like that, to try to get stuff out. Keep the customers happy right now. We have a new 858 Arctic Cat. I'm pretty pumped about that. We got a quick rip on that early on.
Nice.
Seems pretty neat. We've got the IQS shocks. It all overall, it's like I'm pretty stoked on that sled. We also have the new Polaris Dynamics we're working on. We got a quick rip on that. That seems to be pretty cool too. So we're excited about that. Working on the Skidoo Smart Shock stuff still. That one's been a challenge for us. Yeah. But overall, we're pretty excited, and hopefully by the end of the month or so, we'll be pretty much full on riding quite a bit, trying to learn. So.
Very good. Well, getting some of the comments here in the chat area. We had a Lorraine Warther who's saying she's headed up to Old Forge riding this weekend. So wishing her the luck. Phil Molto. It's always fun to hear from Phil, a former guy from Snow Goer Canada magazine and various dealerships and TV shows and things like that. So yeah, kind of an interesting crowd. And Russ Miller is always loyal to our stuff. So good to see you, Russ. Again, you're watching Snow Goer Live. Ross, we will cut you loose. We really appreciate your time today. Wishing you a great winter, and sometime you and I got to go pull throttles together somewhere.
All right, John. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I look forward to it. And I hope this show brings a lot of success for you. It's a great concept, and hope to see it grow.
Perfect. Catch you later, Ross.
See ya.
Yeah, we'll get rid of him. Bang, he's gone. So again, you're watching Snow Goer Live, our new weekly TV show that is sponsored by Z1R and Arctiva. You can reach them both at their natural website addresses, which would be z1r.com and arctiva.com. Talk to Ross about potentially riding this weekend. As we said a couple different times, there are some spots in the east that have really filled in. There are some spots in Michigan that have really filled in with snow. And a couple of our extended family members, some test riders we have and stuff, one's planning a trip to the Black Hills, another one's planning a trip to I think it's the Bighorns, one of the places in Wyoming, either the Bighorns or the Snowies. But so if you want to chase it, there's snow. Some of us are still a little bit snow starved, but it'll fill in. As we were talking with our first guest, Todd Meyer from Cor Powersports, the ground is at least frozen. The swamps are set up. If we get that snowfall, we're going to be okay. So, I know we're all impatient, but it'll get here. So the big thing going on here where I'm based in the Twin Cities this weekend is it's Canterbury weekend, the big Canterbury snowcross. I still remember the very first one of those way back in the mid 90s, and it's amazing what that thing has turned into. They kind of build themselves as the Daytona 500 of snowcross racing, and it certainly is. It's the highest profile, the best attended snowcross race of the year. You go out to Canterbury, you can sit inside, you can sit outside. They've got big displays, they got things going on. Dennis Kirk is hosting a big vintage show there this weekend. So looking forward to getting out there myself since Mom Nature won't give me any snow. But those guys have been making all sorts of snow out at Shakopee, Minnesota at Canterbury Park. And I've seen overhead shots of their track, and it's a big track. It's all set. When it's cold like this, they can make snow easily, and they've done a great job. Speaking of Canterbury, that touches off the big hot rumor of the week. So what was it? Maybe Sunday, I'm thinking. The press release came out that CF Moto was going to be a sponsor of the entire ISOC race circuit season. Immediately, I'm talking immediately. I don't think they hit send on that press release before rumors didn't start going around on social media and message boards that, that's proof that CF Moto is going to buy Arctic Cat. And we even had one person in our chat tonight say that the deal was done. Before his comment, I have no understanding. I've heard nothing that the deal is done. CF Moto is one of many names that we've heard. But at this point, it's all just rumors and conjecture. We don't have anything hard to share with you. I wish we did. As far as the CF Moto part of it, different friends of mine and my phone just lit up this week. But different people who called and said, "Hey, what's up with the CF Moto things?" I reminded several of them that CF Moto has regularly displayed at the Canterbury Snowcross for many years. I remember them being 10 years ago when they were kind of a new name to North America, or new to me anyway. And they've displayed at our Big East Powersports show, I think now 3 years in a row. There's a lot of ex-Arctic Cat people at CF Moto who know the snowmobiling audience, and they know that we're probably pretty good candidates for buying the motorcycles and ATVs and UTVs that they build to this point. So they're reaching out to the snowmobile industry is nothing new to them. Sponsoring the entire circuit is a little bit new to them, and it does make your eyebrows go up a little bit. But it's another one of those we'll see things. We continue to hear rumors from all sorts of different companies, pick your company. I went and did a count online last week, right before I wrote my column for the magazine that we just deployed digitally today or yesterday. And I think I counted 14 company names that I saw name dropped when I just did a little 10-minute search online of different people saying, "I know who's buying Arctic Cat. It's Bobcat, it's Kawasaki, it's John Deere, it's this, it's that." We'll know in time, but let's just hope and really pray that wherever Arctic Cat ends up next is someplace good, because I'm confident that we haven't seen as much naysaying as there is. Where we haven't seen the end of Arctic Cat. They're too good of a brand. Someone is going to snap that up. Also going on this weekend is the Vintage World Championship over in Eagle River, Wisconsin. That thing is a fabulous event if you're into vintage racing at all. This brings people from across North America. I mean, the winner last year was from New York, I believe he's from. The winner the year before was Sabrina, who's from Quebec. We've had winners from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all over the place. The World Championship class is Super Mod 440. And the interesting twist in the last week is there's been 3 or 4 top racers in that class that have got hurt in testing. And so first of all, hoping for a good recovery for those guys. But aside from that, it's going to create some turnover in that class. You're going to see some new names in the final. So I guess that would be the positive spin on it, is maybe, it opened up some seats to some names you haven't seen make the final. But it will be competitive getting in, I guarantee it. And we'll be keeping an eye on that if you subscribe to Flow, like for Flow Racing, for like the snowcross racing, the Eagle River Racing is on there too. So you'll be able to pick up both this weekend's Vintage World Championship. You'll be able to pick up next weekend's regular World Championship, which leads me to my next topic, the Eagle River World Championship Snowmobile Derby. That is not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. And it is an event I absolutely refuse to miss. The winner gets the Snow Goer Cup, so I'm lucky enough to be able to go down and hand the trophy over and let the guy, raise above his head after he wins the race. The pageantry of that event, the excitement, the history, there's so much to that. And even just being in Eagle River that weekend, the nightlife, and just there's usually live music at a couple different bars in town and stuff. So after we get our, Snow Goer tip sheet built on Saturday night, wherever there's live music, you'll see me and my co-parts that travel there with me. So if you're in Eagle River and you see a dopey looking guy in a Snow Goer cap, grab me by the shirt and say hi. Always fun meeting people who are riders like me and who share my passion. But again, that's next weekend. So tying into that, next Thursday's show, we're still planning on doing it, even though Thursday is the day we drive over across the state of Wisconsin, or start our drive. By 7:30, I think I'm going to be in the Hayward, Wisconsin area at a buddy's cabin. So we're going to be live in a different setting, so you won't have all this crud in the background, but we're still doing the show, and we'll preview the Derby. We'll have some guests on talking about the Derby. A lot going on. Should be a lot of fun. So also, getting back to this weekend, we got cross country racing, we got kids racing, we got all sorts of vintage events across the country. So even if you can't ride, there's something to kind of fuel your energy for the sport. So with that, we'll wrap it up here. Again, our sponsors are Arctiva and Z1R. Z1R being a helmet brand that makes helmets for the snowmobile and motorcycle industry, and also makes some other things for the motorcycle industry. Arctiva makes pretty much everything that a snowmobiler would want to wear: jackets, bibs, boots, gloves, base layers, mid layers, you name it, head socks. Again, z1r.com and arctiva.com is the place to find out about them. Just hoping you all get a chance to get out and get riding sometime soon. As much as anything, there's still not. I know sometimes we're victims to the weather, but there's still absolutely nothing like snowmobiling, and I think you'd probably all agree with me on that. So let's remember how great the sport is, because even a mediocre day of snowmobiling is still better than a great day of anything else. So with that, join us next week. See you, everybody.